Hi everyone, welcome to Ask an Armourer. My name's Kia and today I'm going to be showing you how to repair an Epee Bodycord. If you watched my video already on how to repair a two-prong bodycord, this is going to be really similar, just minus a few details. Let's get started. The first step is to gather all of your parts and tools. So you're going to need your broken bodycord and any pieces you may be missing. So if the pins are missing or the case is cracked as an example, you want to make sure you have some of extras of those on hand. The tools that you're going to need are a multimeter that goes down to 1 ohm resistance, a pair of wire cutters, a pair of wire strippers, a large screwdriver set in case the screws need a little bit more leverage to open, and a small screwdriver set. I always prefer having screwdriver sets to give me some flexibility, as some screws will be slightly different sizes depending on manufacturer, as well as on occasion the screws can get a little bit crushed during fencing. In addition, especially as a bodycord has been repaired multiple times, some screws will be a Phillips head and some will be flat heads, so having a full combined screwdriver or set gives me the ability to respond to any of these situations much more easily. Finally, some optional but useful things to have are a magnetic pad or bowl to catch any small pieces, and a permanent marker. If you watched my diagnostics video, you'll also want the diagram that you made then about which end is which, as well as if you mark down where the break is. As a quick recap, the diagram that I use looks like this and lets me visualize and record which line is broken. So to start, what you're going to need to do is open up the case at the end where the break is. Given the Epee cord is symmetrical, there may be breaks at either end, so prepare to have to do this repair process twice. Remove all the screws, making sure that you set them safely aside. I like putting them in a magnetic bowl for even more security, but that's not necessary. If you have a roll of tape that you can put them inside, or just very carefully put them down on your work surface. Once you have the screws up, pull up the top of the case so you can see the prongs inside. Try not to let the prongs move just yet. At this point, I'll show you a little trick that I like to use to make life a lot easier. Pull out your permanent marker and draw a solid line down one of your wires, an inch or so past where you're going to cut them. So, most breaks occur right at the base of this hard plastic case, as this is where the most fatigue wear happens as a bodycord moves. So you'll want to draw your line about an inch below that, about 2 centimeters for my non-American friends, to just above. Draw a dotted line down a second wire, the same distance as your first one, and leave the third one blank. This is just going to give me a quick way to differentiate the wires without needing to retest them. Go ahead and make a note on your diagram about which one is marked, and this will make life a lot easier when you're putting them back together. Great. Now that we've got this all marked and we know where our break is, we can get around to starting to fix it. Take the wires and the prongs out of the case and gently separate the wires. They should come apart relatively easy with just some gentle tugging, but if they're not, you can give them a start with some wire cutters, just like that. Extend the separation past where the break is. Now, you're going to take your wire cutters and cut one of your wires below where you can tell the break is. Put this cut prong aside for later. Once you have this cut down, you can take your wire strippers and you're just going to cut off the insulating rubber part of this wire about 1/4 of an inch or so down to reveal the copper or stainless steel wire inside. Make sure you do this gently as to not cut the actual wire inside, and you may need to rotate the wire strippers a few times to cut all the way through. And you can just pull that off and that little bit is garbage. As you can see inside here, it's actually a bundle of very fine fibers rather than one solid wire. I like to just twist these ends together. It's not entirely necessary, but I find it makes the entire thing a lot easier to work with. At this point, if you have a soldering iron, you can go ahead and do what's called tinning this end, which is basically just covering this metal in some solder in order to help it form a slightly better connection with the prong. But if you don't have it, it's not a big deal. For simplicity, I won't be bothering with it in this video. Once you have your prepared copper end, you'll need to put the prong on. Take it off the trimmed end by unscrewing the retaining screw, this small one right in the base here, and pulling out the old wire. This should only take a turn or two so that the retaining screw doesn't come out. You can see that it's now about halfway out. It's possible to put it back in if it does fall out, of course, but there's no need to make our lives more difficult than they need to be. Take out the end of your old wire and you can just throw that away. Slide the prepared wire back into the prong. You'll see it fits quite nicely inside. And tighten the retaining screw back down. Make sure this is snug and is actually just this mechanical contact that forms the electrical connection and holds the prong in place. To make sure everything is solid, I like to give a gentle tug on the prong and the wire. Nothing should move. If there's not enough wire to form a decent hold, you may need to expose a bit more and fold it over itself to create a bulkier insert for the prong. Now all you need to do is repeat these steps for the second and third lines, making sure that you trim them to be the same length so when you put them back in the case, it all fits nicely together. There, now all three of my wires are back together with prongs securely attached. As a final check, I always like to make sure that everything is actually still connected to the correct points. I know we did our marking earlier, but I prefer a bit of redundancy in my checks so I don't have to repeat the entire process if I made a mistake. Go ahead and get out your multimeter again and make sure that all your lines match up. Same as in our diagnostics video, we're first going to test the A line, which we know is our solid line based on our diagram. We've got a good connection. Move along to our B line, which we know had the dots on it from our diagram. And finally our C line, which we left blank in this situation. Great, we now have good connection for all of them and we can proceed to start putting it back into the case. One other thing to mention at this point is if you have it like this, there's already some shrink tubing on this. This does provide a nice little bit of extra stability and support to extend the life of your bodycord. If you don't have this and you're interested in putting it on, I have a separate video on how to apply this so that you can go check out below. And finally, this is honestly what I find to be the trickiest bit of fixing an Epee bodycord, is putting the case all back together. For this, you're going to need all of your case parts, your top and bottom, and all of the nuts and bolts that you took apart earlier. To put your bodycord put together, first take your bottom of your case and put your bodycords back in their corresponding slots. Again, we know our C line is here, our B line is in the middle, and our A line is farther out. You'll have to manipulate the prongs and the wires so that they all fit nicely into their respective slots. At this point, you can take the top of the case and transfer the pressure of holding the prongs into that and slide it into place. You may need to try this a few times like this in order to get it all to match simultaneously. There we go. Once it's all together, I can pick it up and inspect it to make sure there's no gaps in the side. This tells me all the prongs and wires are comfortably sludged where they need to be, and at this point I'll put it together with one nut and bolt just to do my final checks. I like to start by putting the nut into its slot on the back, and then tightening down the bolt from the front. Doesn't matter which one you do at this point, any of the three will do the basics of holding it together for our final check to make sure that it's done. Again, go ahead and get out your multimeter and work your way down to make sure that, again, everything is put together in the right order. And as with our diagnostics video, you could do a final wiggle check to make sure that you actually fixed it beyond where the break was, or that there wasn't a second break that you need to address, and everything is still in the correct resistance range. We have that here, so all we need to do is just finish putting the last couple of nuts and bolts in. And there you have it, everyone. Your bodycord is back together and ready to get you back on piste. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you've got any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them for me down below. See you in the next one. Bye.